Shalom. I want to give all glory, praise, and honor that's due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Wahad Rakak Wadash, and up belongs to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, whom I learned the truth from. Peace, mercy, and grace be to the household of faith, beginning with the 144,000 of servants to prophets, expanding to the rest of the believers of the household of faith, those that are listening to these videos, watching the camps, being edified, believing on the words being spoken by the Lord's men, in sincerity and truth and hopes of salvation as we are approaching the end of our captivity. The Lord said the days will come when he will turn again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem. He's going to take us out of these sour, bitter bondages. You look at the captivity of the time of Exodus, which was a captivity in Egypt, which was a bitter captivity, which is the symbolism of the horseradish with the Passover. In this lesson, I wanted to discuss, because what's been on my mind more recent is the transatlantic slave trade, which let's look up what is the transatlantic slave trade, because this is such a important point in history that's never been fixed, and it's in the results of it, the effects of it are still felt to this day. And it's such a strong biblical prophecy that took place that it can't be ignored. A lot of us woke up to the truth after hearing the biblical prophecy of the transatlantic slave trade being broken down. So the Atlantic slave trade or transatlantic slave trade involved the transportation by slave traders of enslaved African people to the Americas. European slave ships regularly used the triangular trade route in this Middle Passage. Europeans established a coastal slave trade in the 15th century, and trade to the Americas began in the 16th century, lasting through the 19th century. And what comes to mind is that 3.5 day prophecy. So the transatlantic slave trade was part of a global slave trade that took 10 to 12 million enslaved Africans to the Americas through the 16th century, in summary, right? So now let's get Deuteronomy 28 and 68, because with this, well, before we go there, what you're looking at, I think you should be looking at is the image of, I don't know which image I'm going to use, but a 1747 map, right? A map from the year 1747. It's a map of the kingdom of Judah in Africa. Yeah, I said it. The map of the kingdom of Judah in Africa. So you had a place called the Kingdom of Judah. And why would you have that? Because you had descendants from the Kingdom of Judah that lived in Africa. Yeah, that's right. The descendants of the Hebrew Israelites ended up migrating from the land of Israel throughout Africa. And they ended up expanding westward to the point they ended up being put on slave ships and transported here to the Americas. This is why we say that the so-called Negroes, as well as the Hispanics, Native Americans, are the biblical Hebrew Israelites. But the Negroes, the West Indians, and Haitians, descend from these people. So let's get 1 second. Shit. Okay, no sweat. Let's get Deuteronomy 28 and 46. It says, we'll start at 45. It says, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed. Right? In the slave trade, that's people that get put into that, they destroyed. Let's look up the word destroyed in the Hebrew and see what that say. Destroyed, which is the root word shamad, which means to destroy, exterminate, be destroyed, be annihilated, perish. Also says to bring to naught, to pluck, overthrow. That's what happened. We were overthrown. And then when you look at the word destroy itself, it means to unbuild. Literally means to unbuild. So the Lord unbuilt us. He unplanted us. Right? So continuing on with that verse, it says, because thou hearkenest not to the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. So you jump down to one of those curses that the Lord sent upon us, the last verse in Deuteronomy, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Fulfill what? Through the transatlantic slave trade. Clearly. Egypt synonymous with bondage. He brought us into bondage or captivity again on slave ships. This didn't apply to all tribes. This applied particularly to the kingdom of Judah, which was the southern kingdom. The southern kingdom. So you have this map of the kingdom of Judah in Western Africa. So this map was created in 1747 by English cartographer Emmanuel Bowen as part of a collection. He was a renowned map maker with a reputation for being accurate. Here on his map of Negro land, Africa, he notes the kingdom of Judah as the slave coast. Now this is from blackhistoryinthebible.com. That's what I'm reading from. Now I'm going to go to ChatGPT, and I asked about this kingdom of Judah on the slave coast. So number one, what Judah actually refers to, it says, is written also as Ouidah, WHYDAH, or Ouidah, OUIDAH, or Hueda, HUEDA, refers to the coastal West African kingdom centered in what is now Benin, especially around the port city of Ouidah. All right, Judah, that's Judah, man. This kingdom was active in the 1600s, early 1700s, and became one of the major export hubs for enslaved Africans. All right, so the kingdom of Judah. And again, this wasn't so-called Africans, West Africans trying to pretend and act like they're the people of the lost tribes of Israel. No, it's because they are. We are. You see, when you look at what we're doing today, we're not pretending. We're not claiming it. The reason why there's a spirit of diligence in us saying this and proclaiming this is because this is what it is. It's what it is, right? Because what does the prophecy say that Ezekiel 37, the dry bones, the breath will come, the spirit will come upon them in what? Where is that at? Ezekiel 37. In the midst of the valley, which was full of bones. And that's where we at now here in Babylon the Great. The bones represent us. You see? And he said, can these bones live? And he said, yeah, prophesy upon these bones. And through prophecy, we ended up doing what? Remembering ourselves. So let's go to Baruch chapter 2. I know where it is. I was about this word. I know exactly where it is. Let's go to Baruch 2 and verse 30, as it reads, for I knew they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people. When you're dealing with so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, you're dealing with hard-headed, stubborn, headstrong people that think they got it all, know it all. This is the type of people you're dealing with. It says, but in the land of their captivities, they shall remember themselves. Why? Because the breath will come upon them via prophecy, via hearing the men of the Lord. That's what's causing the awakening, hearing the prophecies, the spirit. The Lord said, these words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. That's how we came back to life, through these words. It's a certain frequency and spirit attached with these words. That's what it took. Because these words weren't being spoken 300 years ago. Babylon the Great wasn't even set up. It wouldn't have made sense at that time. Things had to happen. That's why the Lord said, for at the appointed time, right? At the end it shall speak. The vision is yet for an appointed time. At an appointed time, everything will make sense. Baruch 2 and 31, and shall know that I am the Lord their God, for I will give them an heart and ears to hear. I would give them a heart, a mind in understanding. He gave us understanding, listening ability, the ability to listen, to discern. It's a spirit, man. And they shall praise me in the land of their captivity and think upon my name. Right, so let's go back to the we read the prophecy going into Egypt on slave ships. Now let's go to Joel 3:1. I'm gonna keep reading. And the title says the nations will be judged. Why? Because they all had a hand in our captivity, like they're doing to this day. It says, for behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat. And the Lord is doing that. He's bringing the cap. Let's look up that first verse in another version. NLT, at the time of those events, says the Lord, when I restore the prosperity of Judah and Jerusalem. AMP, for behold, in those climatic days, and at that time, when I restore the fortunes of Judah and Jerusalem. And again, the Lord is restoring us, man, through the word, right? We're being restored. He unbuilt us, and now he's planting us back. He's beginning to plant us again, root us. Verse 2, I will also gather all nations and bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. They scattered us through the slave trade. Okay? They shipped us out. We keep going. Verse 3, it says, and they have cast lots for my people and have given boy for an harlot and sold a girl for wine that they might drink. This was all during the time of the slave trade. You know, what they were doing, they were selling us and trading us for muscadines and popping, man, just doing all type of abomination with us, man. You see, when you jump down to verse 6, the children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border. And that's what happened. We were sold into the Grecians, to the Edomites. We were given to the Edomites, because what happened? You had the real Africans, the so-called Hamites. The so-called Africans, the real Hamites. They're really Hamites. They were also in Africa too, and they had a hand in handing us over to these Edomites for them to, put us on these ships. Right. So let's continue. It says, behold, I will raise them out of the place whither ye have sold them. Ooh, this is verse 7. It says, and will return your recompense upon your own head. Yeah, he raised us up in the place that he sold us in, here in Babylon the Great. How about that? Verse 8, and I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Judah, and they shall sell them to the Sabians, to a people far off, for Yahweh have spoken it. So these people are going to go into captivity, man. Let's get Revelation 13 and 10. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. We waiting. Let's look at the word patience. Patience in the Greek.
Strong's G 5281. Hupomene.
Hupomene, steadfastness, constancy, endurance. Here's the endurance. We just enduring. Steadfast waiting for. Sustaining, perseverance, endurance, waiting. We're just waiting. This is what we're waiting for. The saints, the true saints, are waiting for this. So let's go back. So back to to the kingdom of Judah. It says the kingdom of Judah because you can't make this up, man. Judah's role in the transatlantic slave trade. The kingdom of Judah played a central role as a trading port, not just a passive victim. It became a key marketplace where enslaved people were sold to Europeans. How ironic is this? In the kingdom of Judah, you had slaves sold to the Europeans. You had descendants of the kingdom of Judah being sold to the Grecians, like we just read in Joel. See? European demand drove the system. African states like Judah and Dahomey actively participated and profited. So the ones who sold us was likely not us. That was likely the Hamites. But the slave coast was a European term. So when they say Judah was part of the slave coast, not synonymous with it. So what they call the slave coast, the Kingdom of Judah was in that area. It wasn't just that though. It was a bunch of areas though, from Benin down to Nigeria as well. I think Lagos was a part of that too. So that's why we say a lot of the West Africans are Israelites as well, descendants from the Kingdom of Judah, because the Kingdom of Judah came here on ships to fulfill more prophecy, to be reunited with the Northern Kingdom, which was the so-called Native Americans, Indigenous, and Latin Americans that were already here, so that we can all be here together, just like in Egypt, all 12 tribes were in captivity together. So here in this spiritual Egypt, we're all here together in captivity together. It's just that the blacks seem like we have it the worst, so I'm so-called black, so it seems like we have it the worst, because at least the Hispanics, they work together, they got families, and they appear to have more businesses and shit. But we all goddamn servants here, man. That's why the Lord said, I have seen servants upon horses and princes upon walking the ground or whatnot, because the roles have been reversed. But that's why Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning. And Jacob came out of the womb holding Esau's heel. You see, and this testimony confirms what this is all about. And this is why they're going to come after us for this testimony. All praises to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah Bashem Rakakodash. This is something I wanted to bring out, go into real quick, and discuss. Lord willing, I'll be back with more edification.